Hi guys, thanks for being here. Today we are talking about depression, and maybe you're a person that is a high functioning individual that deals with depression, or maybe you just feel like it's totally wiping you out. But I want to talk about that in this video and talk about how you really can be free from it. So stick with me to the end to hear my 3 tips. Okay, so if you've watched any of my other videos, you know by now that I approach things from a more holistic mindset. So let me be clear, that does not mean that I'm anti-medication or that I think medication is bad or that I think depression is just all in your head. That is not what I'm saying, and that's not what I think is true. I do believe that there are a lot of other factors that play into it, though, that sometimes are not talked about as much or maybe not considered as much when you are battling your own state of depression. So I want to talk about some of those and bring some of them up. And like I said, at the end, I have 3 tips for you of how you might be able to fight this if you're a person who you feel depressed on the inside, but you're still just going through life. And I want to give you some tips on how to get through that. So first of all, we need to talk about depression and where it comes from and what is it and all that. So this is it's a topic that has lots of different points of view. So if you've studied it at all, you might hear the medical model, or you might hear more of an emotional or behavioral side. So all of them maybe have a grain of truth, right? There's maybe no one perfect there's maybe not one perfect theory, I guess, of depression. And I understand that. Today I just want to offer a different one that is not as talked about, and that is it's by William Glasser. He's a psychiatrist that created reality therapy and control theory. He's known for those things. And if you're more interested, I will have a link down below of a book that he wrote on control theory. So he has kind of a controversial view on depression. So that's the thing we're talking about today. And for that example, I am going to explain what he says. He talks about other issues as well, but for depression specifically, he talks about it that our behavior is made up of what we think, what we do, and what we feel. And the things that we do and what we think, those are all described as verbs, right? Those are action words. But when it comes to what we feel, those are more descriptives, adjectives, nouns, things like that. So if you were to say about a person, he is depressed, it sounds like it happened to him, right? Or he has depression. It sounds like it's a thing that has happened to a person and that they had no choice in the matter, right? So this is, again, kind of a polarizing viewpoint, because what William Glasser is suggesting is that we do have a choice. And so what he's saying is that it's not depression, it's depressing. I am actively choosing this state of depression. Now, before you stop this video and leave because this is a hard one to swallow, stick with me, because it is a hard one to swallow, and I know that, but that's why I'm bringing it up, because I don't think it's the only answer to depression. It's not the only theory. It's not the only explanation. No, it's hard to swallow, but sometimes those are the things that we really do need to hear, the ones that we don't want to, the ones that we don't want to face. Now, this is not going to fit for every single person watching this video, but it might fit for a lot of you. That if you're in this place of, I can function, I just feel empty on the inside, right? Or I'm feeling this way because of a toxic relationship or the environment around me or my job or whatever it is. And sometimes it's easy to look around and see there's no factors we can change, right? I can't just quit my job because that's the livelihood for my family and I can't do that to them. I don't want to just quit my relationship because that's a whole nother can of worms. I can't seem to get away from this toxic family situation. Whatever it is, it can really feel like you are trapped and maybe cornered in having options for getting out of it. However, back to control theory, what that would suggest is that we really do have control over it, right? We have control over every choice, every action, every thought that comes, it seems automatic, but we really do have a lot of control over it. So it's not at all fun to think I'm choosing to be depressed, right? And I know that, and I'm not trying to ruffle feathers here, but I think it's something to be considered, because at the end of the day, we do have that choice when you narrow it down, right? So if you think of that person that has all the signs and symptoms of depression, one that you see on commercials or that you hear a lot is they can barely get out of bed, right? That it's just physically hard and debilitating and mentally draining, and it's just hard to even get out of bed, right? I totally get that it is hard. That's why I said at the beginning, I'm not at all saying that depression is just made up, it's all in your head. I know that it's hard. I just do think that William Glasser was onto something when he suggested we have more control over it than we might think. He talks about other things that people struggle with, like anxiety or phobias, and it's a tough one to swallow if you're that person. It's hard to think I'm doing this on purpose, you know? It's hard to think that because we wouldn't want to feel that way, right? You know, I think the most obvious argument is, why would I want to feel like this? This doesn't feel good, right? I don't enjoy it. And I believe that when I hear that. I do believe too that we have more control than we want to think, or that we might realize. We have control over our minds, we have control over our bodies, we have control over our behaviors. It can just be really hard to control them, because here's the other part that is hard to swallow, but sometimes it serves us in a way. So if you're someone who's depressed and you are listening to this, I'm not sure what you might be thinking, but there might be something about your depression that serves you. Let me give you a client example. I had a client one time that came in with certain complaints, but then as we started working and digging into it, there was a lot of other things going on. And one thing in particular, just a small piece of it, was that she was really, really, really codependent on her husband. And she had some physical things, some physical issues or ailments that she was complaining of or dealing with, and amongst other things. And the more that we worked on them, the more things seemed to come up that she would report that she was struggling with. And one day I finally asked her, what if you didn't have your husband there to be so supportive, right? I know that sounds like a terrible question, right? Because our spouse should be supportive of us, and we want them to help us during hard times or dark times or any of that stuff. And I said, what if he wasn't there? Then what? And she looked like a deer in the headlights, because it had never occurred to her that he might not be there at some point, right? Whether it's a business trip or I don't know, a change of life circumstances or something, she had never considered, what if I had to take care of me all by myself? What if I couldn't rely on him for my every want and need? Because she kind of was doing that. And it was like a shock to her to consider, what if I had to do this on my own? And thankfully, it clicked for her, oh my gosh, I do need to do this on my own. He can't cure me or heal me or carry me through all of these things. I have to be able to do that. And it's a hard one to swallow. I know I keep saying that, but it is tough, because we don't want to look at it that way. We don't want to look at, hey, me being really depressed or sick or whatever it is serving me because it keeps my husband close. This is my previous client's example, but it served her in some way. It was serving her. So that's another one that I think we need to consider more often is, yes, depression is real. Yes, there is research to show the different brain scans and the chemical imbalances. I'm not saying that that's not true. That does exist, and it is true. There's also another whole piece of the puzzle too, outside of the chemical side. And the chemical side is valid, and so is the other side that we often ignore, right? And that other side is, how does this serve me? Maybe it's a depressed person who stays inside and stays isolated because it's easier than putting themselves out there. It's easier than facing some social crowds or situations. It's easier than facing some sort of embarrassment or insecurity or whatever it is. So It could be a million different things, but some of these struggles that we have serve us in some way. So my 3 tips for you, right? I know this is probably a lot to swallow, and I hope that it sinks in a good way for you to know, you know what, at the end of the day, I don't want to be in this place. These might be hard things to hear. These might not be fun to hear, but I don't want to be here long term. I don't want to be struggling with this. I don't want to feel like this. So at the end of the day, I want to do things to be able to change this state that I'm in. So my 3 tips for you, here they are. Tip number 1 is to find someone to help you be accountable to. Life is not meant to be done alone, and I know that if you are in a place of feeling depressed or depressing, whatever we want to call it, it's hard and it is debilitating, and it is helpful to have a friend, right? It makes me think of the research that they've done on social comparison, right? So if you go to the gym with a buddy or with a friend, you're more likely to exercise harder and to put forth more effort, burn more energy, all that kind of stuff, if you have somebody with you or if you have a friend that you go with to keep you accountable. So use that to your advantage, right? This is your battle internally to fight, but it's an absolutely great positive tool to have a person alongside of you to help you fight that battle. Okay, tip number 2 is move your body. Again, another one that people might not be a fan of, but I'm just being real. So this answers the chemical side of it, right? Earlier in the video, there might have been some of you that are like, there is science and evidence with depression in our brain, and I acknowledge that and I agree with that. Moving your body is what backs up that science to say that's your tool to help work through the chemical side of it. And there's all sorts of stuff about how moving our body, and honestly, I'm going to tack on a little side note to that, taking care of our physical body as far as what we eat. There's tons of science about how much that impacts our mood and our behavior and obviously our overall physical health. So, do you have to become a marathon runner? Absolutely not. There's so many ways to move your body, even if you are the person that feels like awkward or like you hate it. There's plenty of people out there, and I get that. I'm not asking you to wake up at 5 a.m. every day and do like an hour lifting routine, but move your body. Whatever way that you feel comfortable doing that, that's fine. But move it. That is how you get the chemical side to help catch up while you're working on the behavior side. Okay, and finally, tip number 3 is make a 6-month plan or goal. So I know this sounds like, okay, whatever, that's like a how to change your life in 3 days type of thing. But I want you to make a 6-month plan or goal because, again, if you want to go with the research shows that if we make a goal, make a plan, write it down, stick it where we're going to see it, and work towards it, the likelihood of reaching that skyrockets. So choose that. Choose that place that you want to be in 6 months. Choose that change that you want to happen in 6 months. Choose that thing that you want to be different in 6 months, whether it's you, a circumstance, a situation, an environment. Choose what that is and work for it. Look at it every day. Literally hang it up somewhere that you're going to see and work for it like your life depended on it, because it does. Your life does depend on you actively, daily choosing something different for yourself. So thank you for watching today. I hope this was helpful. If you have any thoughts or comments, let me know. Like I said, I'll put in the description the book by William Glasser about choice theory if you're interested in that at all. Hit all the buttons and share with your friend if you liked this. I really appreciate your support, and keep your eye out for more videos.